Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight. Spooky, scary skeletons speak with such a screech. You'll shake and shudder in surprise when you hear these zombies shriek.
If I throw this at you, will I catch you?
I think you need that one.
No, I think just the standard.
Come on! I'm one of a kind! I deserve the Master Ball!
I think an Ultra Ball would do just fine. Nah.
That's so fucking offensive.
I need a fucking nest ball.
God damn. Why?
Because you're a bug. Or because you like the grass.
God damn it. You're right, though.
Yeah.
Speaking of.
Please hold for bong rip. Oh, no. It's a pipe rip.
I did find Houdini. I had hidden Houdini somewhere.
You mean the plastic bottle?
Over the past couple months,
No,
yeah.
he can go away.
And
he can stay buried.
No, he's good. He's still good. Ever since I put the broken bong slot in there, it pulls pretty good.
Yeah. Is that the Gatorade bottle?
No, it was an old, I think it was an old water bottle.
Nice. Keeping it classy. H2O. H2-ho. Ho, ho, ho. I'm
one
a
sec.
ho. Yeah, fuck you.
I'm asking her if we could push back.
No.
Push back. But I want to go to brunch. And
I know, me too.
Specifically, if I'm having already to drive you back to Philly before I go all the way to Philly, basically.
You might as well eat.
I might as well fucking eat before you have debaucherous sex. Puss.
Yeah, you might as well have some protein before you get in that puss.
Yeah. So yeah, we gotta start talking about stuff because this is Lots of Pasta episode 88. The first thing I wanted to talk about was you're still gonna be living here before episode 100. You will not have graced the eternal planes just yet.
No, I will transcend into
this infernal state.
I will shed this mortal coil of Pennsylvania and leave to an undisclosed location.
To an undisclosed location that never really quite mattered anyway. Like locations and names and nothing, no specifics really
The
matter.
only thing
anymore.
that matters is that I am Frowns McBoohoo.
This is him,
the original gangster.
But
craziest hater.
But I had the thought that, like, man, maybe you'll actually start listening to this show when you don't see me every day.
You know, maybe not. No.
No. Yeah. Cheers.
Oh, I've got a cap pull.
Cheers, bud. Yeah.
Cheers.
Straighten your leg out.
Woo, baby.
What are you doing? Straighten your leg out.
I can't. Oh, that was rough. Did you see my cap?
I saw a fucking vein. It shot up your entire fucking leg.
Oh, baby. But yeah, no, I won't listen.
So, the next order of business... I have to kind of see what she's saying. I'm sorry.
It's fine. You know what? Listen, death is about to...
Okay, yeah, we pushed it back. We're good.
Yo! I'm getting brunch with death tomorrow!
Yeah. As long as we could get in and get out of there in like an hour, then like... less than 2 hours.
So. And we'll get up earlier, and we'll go.
Well... 9:30, 10-ish.
Okay.
Get over there by a little bit before 10:30.
Okay. Well, we just gotta get
out of there by 11:30.
We gotta get the address of where we're going.
Yeah, we're probably gonna have to get a little bit earlier. That's fine.
So we gotta talk about.
Yeah. I had my topics up and I wanted to talk about a couple things.
Okay.
The first order of business is Channel Zero's season 3 just ended, and it was fucking phenomenal. And anyone who had listened to any of Django's episodes and followed along with the Search and Rescue series, like, maybe you got a couple winks in the final episode there, because they kind of touch on, anything from, pagan gods to the fourth horseman of the apocalypse, pestilence. Or no, I think pestilence is the second or third. Because isn't death last riding the pale horse?
I believe so.
Yeah, because death is supposed to be the Antichrist, right?
Yes.
Anyway, even if we didn't get that right, it doesn't matter. There are so many little winks and nods in that last episode, and there's a meat guy that's just walking around. He's all made out of, it's a dude without skin, but he looks like he's made out of assorted meats, and that was kind of a fun little poke at a search and rescue story. But tons of great sound effects too is what I picked up on the 6th episode, because each Channel Zero season is only 6 episodes. It's real easy to get through each of them. Candle Cove, No One House, and Butcher's Block. And they each are directed kind of a different way. The first season is very indie horror. The second season is very art house horror. The third season is very old school, kind of 70s supernatural, like The Shining, or Hellraiser, or Suspiria, that old school 80s classy horror shit. Yeah, fucking so good. Rutger Hauer's performance, that guy's a fucking gem. Mm-hmm. And he is so old that by the time this fucking comes out,
he'll be dead.
He's probably gonna be dead. That's not true. I don't want that to be true.
You're gonna take him, Death.
He was great in Blade Runner. That was his first big movie. He played the main bad guy in Blade Runner. And he's not even a bad guy. He's just... He realizes that he's an android and that he's living on a battery and he's going to die in less than 4 years. And he's trying to get his creator to make him a bigger battery, and his creator literally just says no. It's kind of like a Frankenstein thing. He's just sad being given life and then realizing it's so short. So Rutger Hauer, he left such an impression on me back then when I first watched Blade Runner, that seeing him be both the kind of... He's set up as the main bad guy, but you never see him do anything really, truly evil in Butcher's Block, that you're almost sympathetic with him and his plight, even though he is a immortal cannibalistic god of sorts. Mm. Anyway, that was fucking awesome, and more people need to watch Butcher's Block, because season 4 is coming out in October, and that's going to be based off of a story we actually haven't read yet. If we have time at the end of this episode, I think we should read it, just because it's 4 pages. Yeah. And they're basing a 6-episode fucking series on these, 4 pages. Maybe we could start with that, since it's so short.
Yeah, and guys, let me tell you right now, I'm going to be really upfront with you. If you have a Butcher's Block, you better fucking put some beeswax on that and polish it and take care of it, or else it's going to warp and crack, and then you're fucked. And then you're going to have 2 Butcher's Blocks, because that shit's going to crack in half.
So the reason it's called Butcher's Block is that's the street. That's the area that it's the downtown section of where the show takes place and where all the people go missing. And you find out that people are being abducted by Rutger Hauer and his family, and they're eating them.
And they're taking them to Butcher's Barak.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what happened to me today? When I was at work, I met one of the original actors from the original production on Broadway of 42nd Street.
Really?
Met him and his husband today.
That's fucking awesome.
Had a really awesome 30-minute conversation with him.
Wow. The experience of
and he used to
being up on that stage.
Yeah, and he used to teach at the Peabody Conservatory.
Nice. Yeah.
And then my boss was like, yo, he sings. He's taking lessons. And he was like, do you sing anymore? And I was like, no. And he's like, you're stupid. He was like, you're stupid.
So you shared him, you shared with him episode 8 from Lots of Pasta.
I didn't. I did not have the chance.
Where you, oh no, it's not 8. It's,
I sing in almost all of them.
It's 69. In episode 69, you sing entire sections of a story.
That's fantastic. But no, I didn't get the chance to do that.
It's unfortunate.
And I'm stupid.
Take a big old drink.
I want to know!
How is that, by the way?
Well, other than being interrupted, it's pretty good. A little less ice. I feel like I want to just... You know what? And let me tell you what. When bartenders put a lot of ice in your drink, you think they're trying to cheap you out of drinks. But no, you know what it is? Because they know you'll fucking drink it in a minute. Like me, I don't sip. I drink. This ice is preventing me from drinking.
No, the reason I put a lot of ice is because I know those ice cubes are like slivers, and at one point they're all just gonna fucking disappear. So I like thick ice cubes that sit at the bottom of my whiskey and kind of water it down as I drink.
Yo, I like when...
So that's how I drink. That's how I drink whiskey.
I like when thick things disappear.
Into
my ass.
So the next topic that we have to bring up, the next topic I have to bring up is
my ass.
I've been watching a lot of horror movies and a lot of things that have like horror twists and turns, and I have to bring them up. And I recently watched for the first time ever Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I watched it the same night I watched Gutterballs, which was a lot of fun, and I talk about it in episode 75.
How'd you feel about it?
Killer Clowns?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Really liked it. I really liked it. I loved the homemade everything. You know, I think it's a trio of brothers that built all the costumes themselves, filmed the movie themselves, in a town that they lived in, and raised the budget and self-published, you know, they did everything. And they've been trying to kickstart doing either a TV series about the characters older when the aliens come back, or another couple movies, you know, that they're trying to raise.
Clowns are fucking ugly in that movie. And
yeah, they are.
Did I ever tell you the story about me in that movie? Did I ever tell you the story?
No, you've never talked about Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Alright. I hope you guys are ready. I'm going to try to make it as short as possible. I'm going to try to do it in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Went on a date with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Came back to my house after a nice walk. He was white, by the way. Totally unlike me. Anyway, he was like, let's put on a movie. Let's, put on a movie in the background. Not like we're really going to watch it.
Yeah, I do.
I was like, all right, man, I'm going to give you free reign here. He puts on Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
That's an interesting fucking choice.
We get about halfway through before things start to get heated. And,
during sex, you look over at the TV and you see a fucking clown?
Actually, this was the one that I told you about where he snuck it in, but didn't tell me he was going to try to sneak it in.
Oh,
and then I was like, no, my good sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we went back out, and then we watched more of it while he wanted to snuggle.
Huh.
Not really the kind of movie I'd want to fucking snug to.
It was very 90s Joe Dante-esque, where it's like, there are no real stakes despite the fact that everyone is like supposedly dying or being abducted. And it doesn't really ever really truly take itself seriously. And I can't even imagine watching maybe the first half hour of that and then being told,
suck dick?
Take my dick.
Yeah, well, you know what? I never saw him again after that.
Yeah.
My choice. And I never watched that movie again. Also my choice.
Yeah. And good on you.
Yeah, you know.
Because as much as I like the movie, that's just... you don't put that on. You put on like a light romantic comedy, or you put on a superhero movie.
I would have just put on like, I don't know, Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
I mean, I was movies. But I would always put on a TV show rather instead of a movie, because then like you come back into like a nothing, like it's not even playing anymore.
You know, one time I put on an episode of PewDiePie with with my ex, and he just
this podcast in no way relates itself to PewDiePie.
Absolutely, but
neither do they recommend you going out of your way to actually watch PewDiePie.
You know what? I like PewDiePie. I mean, he's changed drastically, but all I'll say is it's hard for a man to orgasm while watching him or listening to him.
Yeah.
So don't put that on, ladies and gents, if you're trying to get it up. Just bring it down.
Yeah, I would agree with you, because, like, who wants to listen to, like, a Norwegian dude just cursing?
I mean, I don't know.
And also, it depends on what LP you were watching.
Oh, it was, let me see if I remember. Pretty sure it was just a compilation of some of his scariest.
Which is just him just screaming the whole time.
Although,
that's not going to do
Although there's a really great one where, like, he does a holler back girl one Gwen Stefani song, and it's...
I think he's playing around in, like, the bedroom of Amnesia or something, and he's, like, slapping stuff around.
And, like, he just makes an noise, and he just repeats it constantly, but then he starts doing the holler back girl beat. It's fantastic. Well, anyway. Also, I take my whiskey with no ice.
Interesting.
Take it straight. The only straight thing I take, except a penis, that's got to be straight.
Yeah. Flaccid, it's like, what's the point?
Well, I mean, also, if there's like a 90-degree bend, I mean, where the fuck you putting it? Ow, God, shit,
He's not fucking you, he's fucking around the corner.
He's fucking my thigh, like, oh, shit, what are you really gonna do? Oh, my belly
I'm going to start off with this short story. I'm just going to get through it, because I don't know what this is. But apparently they're basing season 4 of Channel Zero off of these 4 pages, or they're taking this idea and building a 6-episode arc out of it. It's called "I Found a Hidden Door in My Cellar, and I Think I've Made a Big Mistake."
It's a crack den.
I was gonna ask, what do you think's in the cellar? What do you think's behind the hidden door?
Well, you think all your cellars are just regular cellars, and you get down there and it's a crack den. Crack basement.
Crack den. See, my mind goes to, unfortunately, a disappointments room. Like a Amityville Horror kind of thing, where it's like they lock a family member that's either like mentally or physically handicapped down there to kind of like die or not see anyone. Like the Kennedy sister, where it's just like they hid her away because they were embarrassed of people seeing her, like...
You know why they put her down there?
Why?
Because she didn't give Daddy a taste. And Daddy always gives a taste.
I really don't know what... I like the idea, because I live in a basement myself. We do have a cellar trap door of sorts and storage space.
Absolutely.
There is probably a space just as large as this room behind my room. There's that little door.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that.
So, hopefully this story isn't super fucking scary.
And if it is, well, you know what? They make Depends for a reason. And feel free to just take a big old shit and a piss in your diaper. Mm-hmm. And then you can stick it up your ass. Please continue.
And you're not even smoking, you're just fucking coughing.
Actually, I'm wheezing.
Wheezing! Cover! This story is from Reddit No Sleep. I found a hidden door in my cellar, and I think I've made a big mistake. My wife and I have lived in our house for around 5 years, and in that time, we've probably been down in the cellar a handful of times. Our house is an old Victorian terrace house, and so the cellar is cold and damp. When we first moved in, we kept wine and stuff down there because my wife liked the idea of telling people we had a wine cellar. But it got annoying going down there every time, so we stopped using it. It's like my mom's house.
Or just like your mom.
Yes. There's only the 2 of us living here, so we never really needed to use it for the storage space. A few weeks ago, we decided we were going to renovate it. Maybe turn it into a mini gym or something. So at the weekend, we went down and began cleaning it up. The cellar has a stone floor, but the walls were covered in this horrible, yellowed floral wallpaper. It looked old as hell, and I assumed it was put up decades ago, so we began to strip the wallpaper, and that's when we found the door. Covered up with the wallpaper, the door was set into the wall. It was plain wood, and the door handle had been removed so that it was flat. We were pretty stumped at how we hadn't noticed this before, how it had blended so well with the rest of the wall. But at this point, I was pretty excited that we'd found a secret door, so I largely overlooked its oddness. All the houses in our street have cellars, so I assumed it must be an old doorway leading through to the next door cellar. We decided that we'd go around to our neighbors tomorrow morning and tell them about the doorway, suggesting we brick it up or something. I didn't really feel comfortable about having this access point in our house. My wife tried to look through the small circle hole in the door where the handle had been removed, but it was pitch black in there. So, because we're nosy, we used the torch on her phone to peek through the hole. So it's in Britain, because only they call it torches.
Yeah.
My wife looked first. She suddenly went still. "This doesn't go into next door's cellar," she said slowly, moving back from the door. I frowned and took her phone, looking for myself. Instead of the cellar, there were stone steps leading downwards. I couldn't see very far with the light from the phone, so I brought down my big torch and managed to get the door open. We looked down the stairs with the torch. They weren't very long, and at the end of the stairway was another door. This one looked really old. Wooden panels kept together with metal columns. It even had one of those metal ring handles, like fucking Skyrim or something.
Yeah, I bet he's taking that torch to her dark hole right now.
It didn't make sense how this could be here. Even though it was going down, the beginning of the stairway would still cut into next door's cellar. We'd been in his cellar for drinks a few times, which had been done up in a games room with a bar and pool table, and I had never noticed a big jut out from the wall that would cover a stairway, or that it was smaller than our cellar if there was a whole wall blocking it off. My wife thought we should probably talk with him before going down and left, but I was too curious about the whole thing. So I took the torch and went down. I tried the handle, and it was a bit stiff, but I was completely took by surprise that it opened. I was completely taken, you illiterate.
I was completely shooketh.
I shone the torch inside. It was a concrete room similar looking to our cellar, but smaller, and this was the only entrance or exit that I could see. I waved the torch around and nearly jumped out of my skin. There was a man, stood at the back of the wall, facing the wall, his back to me. It is, I'm gonna hate that I can't think of the fucking name. Well, I was gonna say,
Blair Witch.
Yeah, what's the name of the guy who told people to look in the corners? It's not Ellie. Ellie is the gangly-limbed one from Blair Witch 2016, but they tell a story in the 90s movie and in, yeah. It'll come back to me. It's like Rupert or Ridley or something.
Ripley. Believe it or not.
He was completely still, wearing a black suit and black-rimmed hat. The man was so still that I began to think he might be a mannequin, until he slowly lifted one foot. I stood transfixed, my torchlight trained on him. It was just bright enough to illuminate his body, but the rest of the room was in complete darkness. He held his foot still in the air before slowly moving it a step backwards. His movements were unnatural and jerky, like someone who didn't fully understand how to walk. He stayed like that for a moment, completely still, one foot placed back. Then he lifted his other foot in the same jerky movement. This time, when he stepped back, his foot slammed on the floor. The sound shooketh me out of my frozen state, and I jumped back. As soon as I moved, it was like I'd triggered something, and suddenly he moved so quick. He was running backwards towards me, his legs jerking around unnaturally. Writing this down, it sounds kind of funny, but at the time it was utterly terrifying. I've never seen someone move that way before. I instinctively threw the torch at him. Maybe I thought I could knock him out or something, I honestly don't know. And legged it back up the stairs, slamming the door shut behind me and running up the stairs leading out of the cellar, slamming that door shut too. I hesitated by the door, barricading it with my arm, trying to control my breathing and understand what I just witnessed. I heard the sound of the door push open in the cellar, and then what sounded like a huge lump of flesh dragging along the floor. I thought I began to hear what sounded like a low hissing noise, at which point I ran out of the house yelling my wife's name. She was stood on the front step of our neighbor's, talking to him. I grabbed her and pulled her to the other side of the road, yelling for my neighbor to get away from the house. Without waiting to explain to them what I saw, I grabbed my phone and called the police. We all stood there in the dark, my neighbor in his robe and slippers looking at the house. After a few moments, I saw the lights that we'd left flicker through our kitchen window. And then they went out completely. All I remember was holding my wife's hand so tightly, looking up into our dark windows and waiting for the police to arrive. They found no one in the house, but the cellar door was open, and so was our back door. They checked our garden but found no one, and no footprints or signs of someone being there. They brought a team over to check out the hidden room we found. My neighbor claimed no knowledge of the room and that he too couldn't understand how the stairs and room could possibly exist, could fit in between our two cellars. The police couldn't explain it any more than we could. I didn't ever want to go back in there, so they showed us photos of the walls inside that room. The concrete was carved with symbols, and they found what looked like centuries-old dried blood. They had the symbols sent to our local university's history department, but no one knew what they meant. They sealed off the room, and we've never gone down into the cellar again. I think we've made a huge mistake that day in opening that door and going into that room. I think we set something free that day, something that someone had locked up for a reason. And I don't think it's good. What's all this we shit? He's the one who went down there into that room and set something free. If I was his wife and I read this story, I'd be like, fuck you. I didn't let out no fucking spooky goth fucking what's fedora wearing asshole.
So, you know what it was? The husband was Rick and Morty. The wife was Adult Swim. The door was McDonald's. The man was Szechuan sauce. Illuminati confirmed 666.
That was a terrible metaphor.
No, it wasn't. It was true. It was truth. It was truth. I am
slime.
Sugar.
So who do you think the thing was? What do you think the thing was?
Alcoholism.
I tended to think it was some kind of demon or devil because they said the footsteps turned into something slithering and hissing. So I think the person or spirit like turned into a snake. Maybe it's Voldemort.
I don't know. I think it's alcoholism.
Okay, explain.
I mean, it's a really interesting.
They mentioned wine once.
They mentioned what?
Wine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they didn't even mention drinking it.
What else are you gonna do with it? Douche with it? Butt chug bottles of wine?
I know Cersei would have.
Oh, yeah, she would have done that in every orifice. Every orifice wine.
Maybe that's what her and her brother do.
She is the living embodiment of Dionysus.
No, Dionysus is described as a fat, rich, jolly fellow, kind of like Santa Claus, that spends his day on the top of a fucking hill under a grape tree, stepping on grapes, making wine and drinking it, and getting everyone else fucked up.
But now imagine this, if you will. What if Cersei had a sex change and went to Jenny Craig's? Hey?
So I really like that story.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm super interested in how the fuck they're gonna stretch that out. I mean, maybe it's first episode is they open the door. Episodes 2 through 6, they kind of deal with the spirit. I just want to know, like, why that? There are so many other stories that they could have adapted. Because I don't. Here's the shitty news. The shitty news is Channel Zero hasn't been renewed past season 4 yet. They started filming it recently. Hasn't been renewed yet. 3 just ended with great reviews. Low audience score, like low watch.
Well, that sucks.
Not many people have watched it, so a lot of people on the Reddit and everything else is like howling. They're just like, save this fucking show. Why isn't this show as popular as American Horror Story? It's clearly better.
It's because Ryan Murphy is a fantastic writer.
I don't even agree with that. I think Ryan Murphy is up Fox's ass so much that Fox in itself is just a highly publicized studio, whereas Sci-Fi is relatively regarded as bullshit and nonsense.
So what you're saying is Ryan Murphy and Fox both share the same asshole.
Yes.
And they have formed a 69 centipede.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know if we're going to get more seasons of Channel Zero after 4, and that's really upsetting because there's so many better fucking stories that they could spend their money on. Like, I could think of, like, Odd Kids or... have you seen A Painting of This Hallway? Like, there are so many more haunting stories that have never been done before, but he chooses to use, and this is Nick, this statement goes directly to Nick Antosca of all 4 seasons. The basement ghost thing has been done before. Candle Cove hasn't, Butcher's Block hasn't, No End House arguably is the least original of the 3. But basement ghost thing has been done before. I don't think child skin suits of bug creatures or weird demon in painting has been done before, you know? That's not true. Ghostbusters 2. Anyway, so we're gonna move on. I had a really lucid dream the other day where, like, the technology was real and, like, I decided to start a ghost busting agency.
Oh my god, I hope I was a part of it.
I think you were.
I better have been.
I don't remember specifics of my dreams. I just remember waking up and going, man, Ghostbusters 2016 really sucked dick, didn't it? Yeah, it did. So, we're gonna hop into another story that's probably gonna take up the rest of this episode, so I hope people like it. It's a monthly winner on Reddit No Sleep called the Lucienne Twins. And what made you... like, want to read this?
Because it made me think of the Lutece twins from
Bioshock
Infinite. And I was like, yo, they both start with an L. And they're twins. I'm down.
That's really interesting because I hadn't thought of them once. When I think of Reddit No Sleep and twins, I think of, like, those stories that circulate sometimes where they're like... They always apparently are, like, true, you know, like the true stories of paranormal shit with twins. Uh-huh. Like, you know about that. Like, the Nazis did research on twin communication and feeling, you know. It's said that if a twin across the world gets, like, heart disease, that suddenly the one across the fucking planet starts to feel pain in their heart, you know, like, weird shit.
Uh-huh.
So do you think this story is gonna, like, do something like that?
Stay tuned and we'll find out.
Sure. So this story's called The Lucienne Twins.
I will never forget the Lucienne twins. Even after 10 years, they are still fresh in my memory. Too fresh. It was my first year of teaching when they were in my class. My fresh college diploma was framed on my desk, and I had placed a signed picture of my favorite professor, now deceased, on the wall behind me.
It's a weird name. Professor now deceased?
Professor now deceased. On the wall behind me, in cursive, it read, "To Mary, my brightest, that you may teach the world."
What a guy.
Yeah, he sounds like a drunk, but I can appreciate that, because I am also drinking. I watched over my kindergarten class as if they were my own children.
Oh, so they're kids.
But the Lucienne twins were my favorite. There was Abigail, the blonde one with a minuscule nose, and Bridget, shorter with brunette hair. "Miss Mary!" Abigail would start tugging on my dress before Bridget continued. "We were wandering."
No, they're twins.
They don't have to have the same voice.
Oh, they're absolutely gonna be them. That's the point of the story. If you start giving them different voices now, you're gonna ruin some kind of twist later on.
More like ruin some kind of twit later on. I'll start fresh. "Miss Mary?" Abigail would start tugging on my dress before Bridget continued.
I just expected you to do like the same voice over again.
Bridget's a smoker. We were wondering, Abigail would take over, if we could go to the sticker box. Bridget would now speak. And take a star.
I'm just letting you know that I'm not gonna do that voice when it's my turn to read.
Well then fuck you. And of course, there was no way I could say not to the couple. They were irresistible, from their broken sentences to the heart-shaped lockets they wore that were embossed with their names. I could never imagine something happening to them, but fate follows no rules, and something did. Word about the car crash spread quick around the school, faster than the ambulance could reach the hospital. It had been seen at the intersection where a pickup truck had slammed into the side of their compact car on their Friday morning commute. The driver had still been drunk from the night before. The gas tank was immediately ruptured, spewing the right side of the car with fuel, and flames licked up through the back seat. Bridget was strapped into the car seat above them, and rumor was that Abigail watched her twin burn alive. When the firemen freed Abigail, she threw herself onto the smoking, smoldering bones of Bridget, and her sister's red, hot locket branded itself into her earlobe. The body of a single mother survived, but the toll of the lost daughter sickened her soul. Abigail returned to class 2 weeks later. The hair on the right side of her head was singed and steadily grew back, though the color was darker. A doctor's inspection revealed nothing else wrong with her except a deafness in her right ear. Hushed voices in the school hallways whispered her eardrum imploded by the sheer loudness of her sister's dying screams. But most unnerving was her sister's name, scarred into the lobe of her deaf ear and surrounded by the outline of a heart-shaped locket. That
sucks ass.
Fucked up.
And I like how they mentioned that her hair color kind of changed to match Bridget's a little bit.
From then on, no student would sit on the right side of Abigail, and I had to rearrange the seating charts to place her next to the wall. Abigail seemed content there, in an island of isolation. Before her sister died, they rarely conversed with the other students, and now it was no different. In social time, I would hear Abigail talking to the wall in incoherent sentences. Abigail, honey, what are you saying? I asked a week later after she returned. Oh, Mr. Neely.
Do you think she'd be that happy? After her fucking...
Oh, Miss Mary! She said, Then she would pause, waiting. And then we thought... Another pause. Silent. And we can we? Sure you can, honey, I replied, though the exchange made my hair stand on end. She smiled again and cocked her ear right, the deaf one, onto the wall, pausing again, then speaking. She said yes. Then the gibberish continued, and the closing bell rang. It wasn't until I drove halfway home that I realized the gaps in Abigail's conversation were where Bridget should be speaking. Months...
Really, you didn't get that? From her looking at the wall, talking to it, and then turning back?
Well, maybe I'm an alcoholic and I don't have time to focus.
And what kind of fucking teacher, after a traumatic incident, chooses to isolate the saddened fucking... Oh my god.
I don't know. Why is everybody trying to pass judgment on me?
The fact that there are like 17 more fucking pages about this chick being surprised that this little girl is gonna be either haunted or psychotic. Like, no, you're doing all the wrong things. You absolutely deserve this.
Anyway, I can't tell you what's happening in this teacher's mind, but let's put a pin in that and let's find out what's gonna happen. It wasn't until I drove halfway We already said that. Months passed, and Abigail became even more of an outcast in the class. The kindergartners came to forget the disaster, and some students even began bullying Abigail. I revised the seating chart again and moved her close to my desk. Clamored Abigail one day, pulling my dress. She stumbled, and I reached to catch her, but she fell against my professor's portrait on the wall, shattering the protective glass that cut! She picked up the remains, the glass biting deep into her soft palms. She didn't notice. I'm sorry, Miss Mary, she said, and her voice changed tenor. We didn't mean to break it! Again, the pitch changed. Your picture. I stopped. It was her first complete sentence since the crash. It's okay, I said, holding her. Blood from her hands dripped onto me, but it felt cold, and I rushed to bandage it. I'm sure you will teach the world one day, Miss Mary, she said, her voice continuing the inflections. My heart froze as I could read the note on the portrait for the 1,000th time. Abigail couldn't read cursive. How did you know that? I asked. Bridget told me. She talks to him now, she said, curling her streak of darker hair around her finger. That's not all she tells me. She tells me terrible things sometimes, and I can't stop hearing her. Then she started crying, and noticed the glass embedded deep into her hands. She never stops. Her voice elevated to a yell. Then I took the picture back. Her sentences became broken again, and I moved her on the seating chart away from my desk. Over time, the other students realized Abigail's reaction to old objects. They'd bring her things that they found in the attic, artifacts their grandparents owned, and watched as she cocked her right ear and heard sentences become whole or broken when she held them. It became a game to them, listening to their stories she made up, but the effect took an obvious toll on her, and soon she started wearing gloves, even in the dead heat of summer. But one boy, larger than the others, a brute known for his bullying, liked the look on Abigail's face as they pushed artifacts into her squirming palms. He was the quickest to see the fear she felt when they gave her an old bullet shell and ran home afterwards to find an old box in his basement. His parents forbade him to open. Inside was his grandfather's Nazi uniform. A warden at a concentration camp. He twisted off one of the buttons.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's like a 1 in a million. I don't quite believe a random kid's grandparent would be a fucking Nazi concentration camp warden.
I mean, it's a small world. I could be a Nazi concentration camp warden.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
How do you like my my take on the girl's voice now?
I like it.
I know it's completely wrong, but
it's not like wrong. There's no matter of wrong. It's you're making the inflection, and that's the point of the reading.
I can't really go.
She's doing a what is it called when someone converses with the spirits?
Their possession.
Well, clairvoyant.
Or they're a medium for this.
Yeah, they're a medium. They're a clairvoyant. They're a clairvoyant. They they're like the people who run the parlors that people come into, and they're just like, my husband died and I'm sad, but I still feel him there. And they're like, ooh, if you pay Madame Leoda $30.
Oh, the mystic bones, they will rattle for you, yeah, child.
Yeah.
I think Abigail has a really good market in the future as a televangelist.
I was actually gonna say that she should bring this shit on Maury. She would get a fucking TV show.
She's gonna be a good Joel Osteen. Next, she's gonna be telling people they can't go in her church. Can I still keep reading for the kid and the teacher?
No.
Just the accents and voices. You can't switch it up. We're already quarterly through. They're gonna be confused.
No, they'll be fine.
I hate you.
You're getting better at it, but I think we're losing just a little bit of how scary this could be because you're being silly.
You need to let me know when you want me to be silly.
Well, no, I want you to do what you want, but I'm just saying that, like, when we switch off, like, I'm gonna do it my way. There might not even be dialogue on my pages.
The next day, he found Abigail on the playground and pinned her against the chain-link fence. He ripped the gloves off, ripped off her clothes, and forced the button against her hand.
I don't apologize for coughing.
When she began screaming, he only laughed and closed the fist tighter.
Asshole.
I reached them too late. When I pulled the boy off her, she was sobbing uncontrollably. Both of her hands locked into fists. She dropped the button like it was searing hot and refused to open the other fist until the paramedics arrived and knocked her out with anesthesia. Only then could they pull her severed right ear out, torn off by her bloody fingernails, with Bridget still written on the lobe.
Jesus.
But the most terrifying of all was when she screamed. I could hear two voices screaming.
And we reached a part 2, which is actually kind of fun now. Now it's kind of fun. Because, like, now I know that, like, this might have been, like, something, like a continued effort by this guy.
Kind of fun? Yeah, I haven't been having fun this entire time.
You don't like the story?
No,
awesome.
I do, but just the way you... Fuck off.
No, I'm saying the fact that, like, the guy gave this serious thought and, like, set up, like, a chapter-like storytelling system. That just shows a certain caliber of the story. Yeah. And this is a Reddit No Sleep Monthly winner of one of the past months. I like the 2 voice part. That's awesome. And I do dislike the ripping off the ear thing, but I mean, she couldn't handle what her sis was telling her about about Nazis. So I get it, you know.
Apparently they like to have a lot of parties.
Yeah.
And
yeah, actually they did.
Abby's just a party pooper.
Lots of what's the
lots of showers.
Hitler liked to listen to one particular composer.
Beethoven.
No.
Who?
Nope. I thought you'd know.
Well, I know
it's a joke, but
Oh, well, I was gonna say Beethoven originally that was Napoleon. Never mind. Beethoven originally composed one of his pieces for Napoleon and then changed the title of it.
No, it's a joke that a lot of people bring up. It's just like, oh, you're a Nazi, so you must listen to blank.
Oh, Nickelback.
Part 2.
Ooh, I love the Nickelback, yeah.
Part 2.
Look at this photograph.
Swedish. I wish I could say that was the last I ever heard of the Lucienne twins. I wish Abigail's story ended with the month she spent at the psychiatrist's office after the incident. But wishes rarely come true, and this was no exception. Abigail never came back to the school that year. A teacher that was her family friend gossiped with me over a cup of coffee in the break room 3 weeks later, filling in the details that had kept me awake deep into the night. She's staying at home until the whole thing blows over. 3 times a week, she goes to counseling. Though she won't talk to anyone and only eats if you put 2 plates in front of her. If you ask me, she was an accident waiting to happen. Poor thing. Her grandfather was just diagnosed with terminal cancer, too. And the doctors were able to sew the ear back on. Can you believe that? Apparently, you can barely even tell it came off. Miraculous. Miraculous. I'm not sure if that was the appropriate word, or if they should have sewn it back. At the end of the year, the school board informed me that I would be moving to another school, a smaller institution for brighter children. I accepted, not because the pay was better, but because I knew it was their kind of way to fire me. I could hear their whispers, that I was the one who made the freak crack. So I packed away my things and was admitted into Carrie's school for the gifted. There were no current openings for kindergarten teachers, so I taught 2nd grade. My first year went by smoothly, and I received a small bonus at the end for my students' high test scores. When I returned from the summer to start my 2nd year, 19 out of the 20 desks were filled by young children, their fresh crayons tucked away in pencil bags that still smelled like Walmart. I smiled at them and introduced myself, writing my name on the board as I talked. "Hello, class. My name is Mary Watkins, and I'll be your new 2nd grade." Behind me, the classroom door opened, and I heard the footsteps of 2 students enter. The smile froze on my lips, and my marker jumped across the board as I heard her voice. "Hi, Miss Mary." I turned. Abigail stood alone in the center of the room. Her silver locket dangled from her neck. Bridget was still burned into her right ear, which looked as if it had never been missing. "We miss you." And maybe it was the lighting, but I could have sworn I saw 2 shadows. I sat Abigail near the windows. The sunlight calmed her, and she spent most of her time staring up into the clouds. Despite this, she still managed to test better than anyone else in the class. Once, realizing she was not paying attention, I called upon her for a simple arithmetic problem. "Abigail, what's 2 times 4? She continued to stare off, her eyes glassy, the rest of the class twisted in their chairs to watch. "Abigail," I repeated, my high heels clinking against the tiles as I walked over to her. Still, no response. I waved a hand in front of her face, flexing my fingers, then touched her face. Abigail threw her head back and gasped, drawing in a breath so deep it was as if she'd been held underwater. Her desk rocked from the momentum, and I held it down, forcing my hands over the chilled wood. She thrashed, looking from left to right wildly. "Abigail, honey, I'm here," I shouted, and her eyes met mine. Tears spilled outwards, and she embraced me, her nails digging through my dress and into my shoulder. "We're sorry, Miss Mary. We're so sorry." "Shh, it's okay, Abigail. Everything's going to be okay. It was Bridget. She took me somewhere and we couldn't find our way back. It was dark and cold." She shivered. I suppressed my own shudder. "You're here. You're back." She sighed and I released her. The recess bell rang and the rest of the class hurried out, carrying lunch boxes away along questions that were too young to know the answers to. Questions that I, at 27, am still too young to know the answer to. "Miss Mary," she said, when my back was turned. "Bridget says the answer is 8. Since Abigail had returned, her speech had slightly improved. No longer were there intermittent pauses where Bridget used to speak, but the tenor of her voice continued to change as those intervals. It wasn't until 4 weeks into the semester that I realized why. In her front pocket, Abigail always carried a fountain pen. It was gray, the color of the clouds she watched outside the window, and came to a sharp point at one end. "I like your pail, Abigail." "Pail?
I like your pail.
Nice pail, Abigail.
Where's the shovel?"
"I like your pen, Abigail," I said one day, and she beamed, thrusting her pocket out like a badge of honor. "Thanks, Miss Mary. My grandfather gave it to me. He writes storybooks. He wrote us one once, me and Bridget, and how'd we'd always be together. It had our lockets on the cover. Did he know? Well, that was sweet of him. I'm sure he's a nice man. I love him more than anything else in the world. It's just sad he can't visit anymore." "Why is that, Abigail?" "He's in the hospital, Miss Mary. Bridget says she keeps him safe. And Daddy says everything is going to be alright. I'm sure it will be, I said, and left the discussion. I forgot about it. Until one day, Abigail misplaced her pen. Miss Mary, she tugged on my dress, her hand jerking urgently.
And she's ready to take the dress off at this point.
I had been teaching the class cursive, but she walked up to the board like nothing was happening. We can't find... Pause. But we just had it. Pause. My pen. We need your help. My hair's raised. The come-and-go speech pattern returned. Abigail, sit back down. I'll help you after the lesson. No, she shouted, stamping her foot. No, we need... Pause. Or else... Pause. We'll die. It would be fruitless trying to continue the lesson, so I helped her search. With every minute, she grew more frantic, throwing over rugs and backpacks in her search. When she was on the verge of tears, I found it underneath one of the bookshelves. She sighed. Thank you, Miss Mary. We're better now. There was still time. No pauses now, just inflections again. The two girls seated behind her sniggered. One was Natalie.
They what?
They sniggered. Sniggered. Like, laughing.
Isn't that snickered?
There are multiple ways to say it.
Oh, that's a very rough way.
Nope, it's been said. It is a word.
Sniggered.
One was Natalie, a redhead with freckles peppered across her face, and the other was Jane, whose shoes were always shiny and school supplies always new. The week before, I had caught them poking Abigail during class, much to her distress. Why are kids the fucking worst?
Because they're pieces of shit.
I was just gonna say, this story will be perfectly fine as long as that bully thing doesn't happen anymore. But I think it's synonymous in understanding the American education system as being so laid back that there is no fucking ruler anymore. There's no care. So just kids are fucking assholes to each other and no one ever says anything, and it's so fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The amount of things that could just be, like, we wouldn't have fucking school shooters and, you know, mass murder on, like, a terrorist scale if people just learn not to be assholes at younger ages.
Parents don't take the time to teach them that.
No, and I think our parents' generation is pretty fucked. So it's not going to be until our generation are the parents. And anyway, bitches, man. I continued hoes and tricks. I continued my lesson and instructed the students to write a sentence of their choice in cursive. Abigail took the cap off her pen and, for the first time, used it to write an assignment. She took her time, eyes furrowed in concentration as she worked. The rest of the students had left when finished. She looked it over carefully, making adjustments for a full 10 minutes before she turned it in. I let her work. Even after the transpired events, I had grown to love Abigail, and her dedication made me proud. I wanted to see what her handwriting would produce. You worked a long time on that, Abigail, I said as she walked up to my desk. I wanted it to be perfect, Miss Mary. This pen writes so beautifully. I love the ink. It's the most pretty blue, and it sparkles in the light. It certainly is. Go home now, Abigail. Your family will be waiting. The sheet was blank. There was no blue ink. She picked up her bags and headed out the door. She'd walk home from this school, and I hadn't seen her parents drive her over in over a week. When she was gone, I looked at her paper. I held it up to the light and could see the scratches. The ink pen had made against the lines. Abigail belongs to me. Just before lunch the next day, Abigail's pen went missing again. We searched for 15 minutes, and each passing second her panic became more evident. It wasn't under the bookshelf, or under the rug, or in her backpack whose contents she had strewn across the floor in rage. She shook, wrapping her hands around her face and pulling her hair. Behind her, I saw Natalie and Jane share a knowing look. A flash of gray gleamed from Natalie's pocket. She's such a baby, 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 taunted Natalie as I took the pen from her. The shrieks had already begun by the time I brought it to Abigail. She grasped it, her knuckles bone white, and for a moment all was silent. It's too late. He's gone, she whispered, and looked me dead in the eyes. He's gone. Then she screamed so loud that I had to cover my ears and feared the windows would rupture. Baby, shouted Natalie, putting her hands on Abigail's desk. Her voice was drowned out. Abigail threw the pen as hard as she could at the board. It ricocheted, bouncing at an impossible angle, flying up above my head and slamming point first deep into Abigail's desk, straight through Natalie's right hand and pinning it to the wood. It was so embedded that I couldn't remove it, and Natalie had to wait the 15 minutes for the paramedics to arrive until she could move. They rushed her to the hospital, and the school board suspended Abigail for 2 weeks. She spent it in Pennsylvania at her grandfather's funeral. The day of the accident, he had died, and the doctor marked the time of death in thick blue ink at 11:44 a.m.
Shit.
That morning I had returned the one-sentence assignment, and Natalie's blood now stained Abigail's paper. On the way to throw it out, I stopped, something catching my eye. Under the blood, sparkly blue writing across the once blank sheet. Abigail belongs to me. Bridget's got some things, some issues. She died pretty terribly, and now she's grudge haunting her sister.
She belongs to me now, and her name is Zen.
That's really interesting. Just the way you said it kind of reminded me of the Lemon Sisters, who sing the song Tonight You Belong to Me. And I think they were twins.
I don't know that song.
I know, in my heart, tonight you belong, but tonight you belong to me.
No, you'll have to play it when this episode is over.
It's super fucking creepy.
I know you belong to somebody new, but tonight you belong to me.
I love it. Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Dr. Dead loved this song. He does not dislike it. He loves her.
I got the fucking words wrong. It doesn't matter. Part 3.
The most disturbing thing about Abigail wasn't her queer tendencies or her morbidly obese past. It was her innocence.
This is such a good story, and you're just shitting on it. You're just taking a fucking shit on it. You're treating it like such a joke. It's so good.
Shit on the floor. It's time to get swifty on the story. The most disturbing thing about Abigail wasn't her queer tendencies or her morbid past. It was her innocence. It was that she didn't know that anything was wrong with her life.
I know a couple women like that.
Yeah. They just think, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in general. The end of the year was near. The children grew antsy in their seats as old snow turned into the spring blossoms, and final parent-teacher conferences were approaching. I moved Natalie and Jane to the other side of the classroom, but it didn't seem to matter. They avoided Abigail now. Everyone did.
Jesus, they don't even change the girls' classes?
I want to know how big this classroom is, that she could just keep fucking moving seats.
Well, classes typically have 30 people.
At like a kindergarten age?
Oh, absolutely. In my school district, there were at least 20 to 30 kids.
Alright, well...
And this is second grade.
Oh. She was quieter than she used to be, though she still held half conversations with the wall during social time. And the way she dressed had changed. Sometimes her clothes were too small, and sometimes they matched in ways that just seemed odd, though the pen in her pocket stayed consistent. Her hair was different too. She began to wear it in braids and other more complicated styles. I couldn't help but notice that the streak of brown in her blonde hair had grown. Abigail, honey, I don't think those clothes fit you just right.
Maybe you were onto something with the morbidly obese.
I always know where I'm going with these things. You may think I'm making half-ass lighthearted comedy, but Frowns always knows. He knows the morbidly obese, and he knows the queer tendencies. Because I am both of those.
You're not morbidly obese.
I'm getting there.
No, you're not.
Abigail, honey.
No, she wore.
Really?
She wore.
She wore a yellow button-up shirt, but it was just so tight that you could see the muffin top. It looked as if the buttons were ready to pop off. See, I told you she wouldn't like it. I wanted to wear the blue one, she said, twitching her right ear. It looks fine, honey. I just think you might want to wear one that's a little bigger. But Bridget said this is her favorite t-shirt.
Ah, shit. She's wearing kindergartner clothes.
And I should wear it today because it makes me look pretty.
That's so fucked up. She's wearing her dead sister's fucking clothing.
Where are the parents and all of this?
I know! That's gonna be a twist. They're gonna be like dead already or something.
She starts wearing mommy's clothes and like puts lipstick and pearls on dad with a tie. My skin began to crawl. That was when I first realized that she was wearing Bridget's clothes, which had not changed since kindergarten. I would have to bring this up at the parent-teacher conference along with many, many other things.
Okay, so let's see if they fucking show up to the parent-teacher conference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be her with like one half the dad and one half of the mom, like, and just turning on the side.
Yeah, it's gonna be her, like she paid a classmate to do the whole like sit on the shoulders thing.
Oh so yeah, it's 3 kids in a trench coat.
Yeah.
On Wednesdays.
Hello, I am Mr. and Mrs. Abigail's mom and dad.
I work at the business of
I work at the place thing and I drive a car.
I do good business. Let's talk numbers. My phone number is... On Wednesdays, we wear pink. On Wednesdays, it was my turn to patrol the lunchroom while the students ate. Abigail sat alone on the corner of one of the long tables, her lunchbox zipped open in front of her, and its innards strewn across the table. She had set the seat beside her as well, placing portions of food on the table in front of it. She took a bite of a sandwich, and something multicolored fell out onto the floor. It was a gummy worm, half green and half orange. "What is that you're eating, Abigail?" I asked, poking around the rest of her lunchbox, finding a few candy bars, a baggie of sugary cereal that my own parents wouldn't let me eat, and a bottle of chocolate milk. "Lunch, Miss Mary. We made our own recipe." "Your own? Do you pack your own lunch, Abigail? What does your mother say about gummy worm sandwiches?" "We pack it every day," she said proudly, "and Mommy doesn't like it. But I don't really listen to Mommy anymore." "Abigail, you need to listen to your mother. I'll buy you a hot lunch today." "What about Bridget?" "She can have extra of your special lunch." I clenched my teeth as I watched her eat. What type of parent lets their child eat junk every day and dress in clothes that obviously didn't fit, especially since it was her only daughter still left alive? On Parents-Teacher Day, Abigail's mother and I would be having a long talk. Next Wednesday, I caught Abigail eating gummy worms again. Now I bought her lunch every day, and every day she packed a lunch for Bridget. Abigail's mother had the 7:30 p.m. time slot on the parent-teacher day. It was my last conference and I had scheduled it late so I could spend extra time with her. I watched the analog clock in the corner. Right now it was 7:29. But parents often showed up late to meetings. 5 minutes passed, and then 10, and then 30. I shook with anger when I got up from my desk. The negligence of Abigail's mother was appalling. Opening up the directory I kept in my drawer, I ripped out Abigail's contact information. Like it or not, her mother would be having the conference. The drive was short, about 5 minutes, and I pulled into Abigail's driveway. Her house was on the top of a small hill, higher than any of the others around it, and a dead oak tree stood in one corner.
That's no tree. That's your mama!
Kill me! She's like alive in it. The face just
like,
shaking.
Don't be the snowman.
The grass was high and uncut, while the flowers under the porch were wilting. I rang the doorbell twice and waited. I heard Abigail thumping down the stairs. I'm trying to masturbate.
Oh, God damn it.
And a moment later, the blinds flicked open to reveal her eyes. Miss Mary, come in, she said, opening the door wide. Hello, Abigail. Is your mother home? She missed her parent-teacher conference. Oh, yes, Miss Mary. She said she didn't feel like going out tonight. I clenched my teeth again and struggled to keep my voice even. Did she now? Can you take me to her? Of course, she said and whipped around, leading me to the kitchen. My nose wrinkled. Whatever Abigail's mother had cooked for dinner smelled disgusting. We turned the corner, and I saw her seated at the kitchen table, her back towards me, and I felt my anger surge. I have every right to report you to Child Services. If you continue treating your daughter like this, then I will have no choice, I scolded. Sitting in the chair next to her and turning to her face. The smell wasn't dinner. The smell was Abigail's dead mother. What was left of the skin on her face was taut, and much of her hair had fallen out, littering the floor around her. In front of her was a moldy cup and an empty bottle of prescription sleeping pills. I froze, and Abigail embraced her mother, knocking one of her hands off the table to fall motionless at her side. I stood. Backing away slowly, there was a video recorder plugged in on the counter and its flashing red light blinked at me. Abigail, honey, how long has your mother been like this? I asked, carefully choosing my words. Like what, Miss Mary? Here, at this table? No, dead. How long has she been dead, my thoughts screamed. Oh, I don't know. Mommy still gets up every once in a while, but she stays at the kitchen a lot more than she used to. And she's been sitting in my seat during dinner. She pouted, crossing her arms across her chest. A fly buzzed around her mother's head, but she still didn't notice. She was busy holding her mother's shriveled hand.
It's because she still hears her mom, like, walking around and talking, and it's like, of course, her mom, you know, is saying, like, don't eat fucking gummy worms, you stupid fucking, you fat bitch. And she's just like, no, no.
Fuck you, bitch, it's my body, I do what I want.
I do what I want.
Abigail, how about you give me a few minutes alone with your mother? You go watch TV in the other room. Okay, Miss Mary. She left and I waited until I saw the blue-green glow of the television before flipping open the video recorder. In the corner, the last recorded date flashed and I counted back the days. 37. My God, I thought, and I pressed play. The screen flickered to life and Abigail's mother's face materialized. Her eyes were puffy and tear tracks from her mascara streaked down her face. I recognized Bridget's old locket in her hand. I can't do it anymore, she said into the camera. It's too much. I'd be able to take it without my dad's death or the things that are happening. I think I'm going crazy. But Abigail, something's happening to Abigail. Something's wrong, and I can't live to see it happen. Abigail, she called. And Abigail came into the picture. Her mother held 2 cups. Abigail, I made you some juice. Would you drink it with me? But Mommy, Bridget wants a glass too. Of course she does. And I saw fear cross her face. Here, drink it up. Are you okay, Mommy? Yes, everything's fine. Drink all of it. I put some vitamins in there. Bridget says this is hers. Just drink it. And at that moment, Abigail's voice changed and the recorder's lighting changed. Maybe it was the lighting. But Abigail's hair looked darker than before. Okay, Mommy. I saw her drink it, and I heard the empty cup hit the table. Where's mine? She asked. You just drank it, murmured her mother. Her own medicine was starting to take effect. No, Bridget drank that one. She said it was the sweetest drink she's ever had. I want one too. But her mother was already asleep. Abigail failed to notice, and for the next 15 minutes upheld conversation with her mother. Then the recorder's lighting dimmed. Her voice changed, and she looked straight to the camera. Mommy is with me now. She smiled as the recording expired. This explained the mismatched clothes and the lunches. Abigail, I said, calling her back from the other room. What happened to you the night your mother brought you juice? Did you get sick off of it? No, Miss Mary. She never gave me any juice. What have you been eating, Abigail? Who's been doing your laundry? Bridget does everything now. Mother helps sometimes, and they braid my hair. I shivered. The styles she used were too complicated for her to do alone. Come, Abigail, you're staying with me tonight.
Fuck nah, man. Child services. Sorry.
Is that okay, Mommy? Said Abigail, cocking her ear. All right, if you say so. I'll be home before dinner tomorrow. Maybe the pills had expired. Maybe her mother forgot to spike her glass. The possibilities ran through my mind as we left behind her house with the dead oak, the dead flowers, and the dead mother. But in my heart I could feel what had transpired. And the thought, it terrified me. I knew what I had to do next. I had to adopt Abigail.
That's where it ends.
Really? That doesn't seem right.
No, it doesn't. But if there are more parts, I will find them. That's where we're gonna stop now.
No, that's fucking creepy.
Oh, there's more parts. There are 3 more parts.
Okay.
So we'll do 3 more parts in another episode.
All right.
But this is the kind of thing like there's a clear ending to at least this part that we could pick up from next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll keep that open to remind myself
the story
that
is
we have
fantastic.
to come back to it. It is very intriguing. I like the kind of almost research they've done on clairvoyance and twins and stuff, because that's not the first time, I forget what source, but that's not the first time I've seen someone possessed do something that should kill them, and then when unpossessed, it does, they don't die. I forget what source. It's probably something like Supernatural, but for the life of me I can't think of it. And I don't know, it's just it's so well written, and I say give the kid to child services, but like it really does depend on like how helpless and cute this kid probably is, because that would probably make me feel guilty enough to feel responsible for the kid.
Yeah, and you've seen every struggle.
You've been there the most. You're arguably the reason you when they found out that the kid had to change schools, they literally said, well, this teacher is going to be able to help her the most. So when they found out that the other school was going to fire him, they literally just said, no, like, bring her here. What we know about this kid is, like, she's going to need help.
It's crazy to see how it's going to continue to unfold.
Yeah, evidently there are 3 more parts that I know of, so we'll read the rest of them and maybe another short thing on another part, but I don't think it's going to be the next episode. So we'll come back in the 90s before episode 100, the big 100, to finish off the Lucienne twins. I will have to see how many parts there are, because if there are like 7 or 8 or something, we might just finish Lucienne twins another day. But this reminds me of Bedtime a lot. Bedtime was kind of about kids, or a kid, dealing with something that was just completely out of their grasp.
Yeah.
And this one has the same kind of feeling that you relate to everyone involved, and you just wish that they'd make less stupid mistakes. This teacher has seen this shit happen so many times that wouldn't you think to maybe, I don't know, like, I find that the bully thing doesn't work when you make the kids deal with each other a lot. I think, like, if you were to sit the bully next to the fucking nerd and, like, watch them like a fucking hawk, you know, all year, don't you think their relationship would improve? We always think separate, keep them apart, you know, draw lines in the fucking sand, but don't you think the system would be better counteracted by making them have to fucking deal with each other?
It's an interesting thought. But
I'm just saying, like, putting her by herself, window, wall, whatever the fuck, obviously not the best.
Yeah, I mean,
for
it's definitely something interesting to think about.
Connection with the parent is something the government or the school system or something with the shit that has happened in this girl's life would make sure that this parent is being responsible long before 37 days would come into effect. I know it's the point of a writer to be, like, shocking and surprising, but that is completely implausible. The house payments, credit, car, like, there's so... Being an adult and knowing how many people are constantly looking for you, that can only go on for so long. Yeah. If that parent missed from work for a week, or perhaps a parent or a friend or something, she just lost a fucking kid. Someone is going to be looking for her and looking out for the kid, right? Like, just someone. But they're implying that absolutely no one gives a shit. And that's just so hard for me to fucking understand.
Well, technically, she killed herself 37 days after the recording. So this would have been after the incident with the hand. So at this point,
they should be on someone's fucking spotlight.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. But, you know, if the mom says everything's under control and she's got it, and then kills herself, no one's going to think of anything. She's still coming to school. What
did you think about the fucking Carrie thing that happened there? She threw it perfectly and it fucking daggered.
Hits the board and then comes back, and yeah, that was crazy.
That's some, like, Stephen King.
It's like some Kobe shit.
Bullshit, yeah. That's awesome. I liked it a lot. It's a fun story. You're enjoying yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. I'll remember to come back to it before 100.
You know what I just realized, though?
What's up?
We never introduced ourselves in the beginning of this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, we absolutely did.
I introduced myself.
Yeah, but I heard you do that, and then we did the whole This Is Lots of Pasta episode 88 thing. Like, they know it's...
Hey, guys.
You always do this at the end of the fucking episode, and I always have to fucking cut it. You're just like, you haven't said our names, and I'm just like, motherfucker, I've been saying your name repeatedly for an hour and a half.
You know what is good about 88 though? That's the number of keys on a piano.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Interesting. What do you think the Lucienne twins would play on the piano? Chopsticks?
I feel like they would play Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, Movement 1.
You're making me Google. Wagner.
No! They would be playing this, bitch.
No. Hitler's favorite composer.
Oh.
I know the Beethoven symphony. They're
Well, it's not a symphony, so it's your first problem. But
it's a movement. It's Moonlight Sonata.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Yes.
Now please stop playing it before we get fucking copyrighted.
Oh shit. I mean,
it was less than 30 seconds. I'm just saying, Hitler's you made me Google it. Hitler's favorite composer is Wagner.
Wagner, yeah, because he's awful. He's an awful human being.
German.
Yeah. And he also didn't like the Jews.
Yeah, no, that's the point. So, this was episode 88. We read, my stupid fucking cellar.
Anyone can have a stupid
you see this wall?
cellar.
You see this wall right here? We're gonna blow this wall out, create a nice
open
concept basement down here for you guys. Nice open concept.
Hi, I'm Cellars in My Eyes Johnson. All I know is that everything is a cellar, but I don't know where I'm going. And oh boy, we've got lots of cellars here. They could be worth $1, $0, anything. But everything is hot and on fire, and I feel everything. And I am Cellars in My Eyes.
Gestalt also likes to do It's My Eyes Johnson. It's something you guys have in common. Yeah, this is Captain Death and Frowns and I, signing out.
And you know what? We're serving up fresh hot pasta.
Mm.
And if you're vegetarian,
yep,
Jewish pasta. Jewish pasta. Come on and join in, and we're gonna end the show right now.
I didn't enjoy this.
Because you're a cunt.